Well, back to the stock markets. And now we're going to touch base with the top management of Triveni Engineering, Tarun Sawhney, the Vice Chairman and MD, here with us. Now, what we saw over the weekend were a good set of results from Triveni Engineering, where the bottom line jumped manyfold to come in at almost 1,400 crore rupees. That's after the sale of an exceptional item to do with Triveni Engineering in the turbine business. But what has also got a thumbs up from the street is a buyback that has been announced by the company. Tarun, good morning. This is Nayantara Rai. We're seeing the stock in a sweet spot after the results and, of course, the buyback in which the promoters are also, of course, participating. We had Balrampur Chini announcing it earlier. Now it is Triveni. Clearly, the cash-rich sugar companies enjoying the tailwinds, putting the treasury to good use.
Morning, Nayantara. Lovely to be on your show. The board is delighted to announce a large buyback of 800 crores. And I think this is part and parcel of the board's perspective of rewarding our shareholders. And so, we've had a rich history of doing buybacks and, of course, a rich history of a strong dividend policy that we actually declare. And part and parcel of returning excess cash to our shareholders.
Point. And like you said, the company does have a history of doing it. And it's going to be interesting to see how the sugar companies also do this. Balrampur Chini's done it. Now Triveni is doing it. Now let's talk about, the future. You've clearly been enjoying the tailwinds, right? Now going forward, let's talk about each of the triggers one by one. Should we begin with ethanol? What we've seen recently also is the government raising the prices of ethanol. But is it good enough? Is it what the industry also wanted? And what is it going to mean for Triveni?
So let me start off by saying that the government has been extremely responsive to market trends. There has been a recent increase in the price of ethanol, but I want to remind you that over the course of this summer, the government increased the price of ethanol at that point as well, when it saw that distilleries were coming under cost pressures. With inflation, etc., there was an increase in the cost of production, and the government was very progressive in terms of having an interim increase. Now, the most recent increase is of course, smaller from that perspective, but larger on a year-on-year basis. Is it enough? I think when we look at B-heavy molasses and when we look at grains, etc., we're certainly heading in the right direction. There is also an increase as far as juice is concerned. Is it enough for existing capacity? Perhaps so, but certainly not for new capacity. I think it is the industry's hope that the government actually increases the price of ethanol derived from juice to a little higher level, to about 69 or 70 rupees per litre, thereby accelerating the amount of investment, the capital investment that is required in this industry. We're marching towards E20. It's a certainty that we will achieve it well within the time frame of 25-26. But I think the industry would be in a more comfortable position, especially the sugar industry, if we saw slightly healthier pricing so that we could put the cash flows to work and ensure that capacity addition happens in a timely manner.
Just an extension of that, Tarun, the government has also raised ethanol prices, right? So what happens to pricing on contracts with OMCs? Is there a change there at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So it filters through. It's a seamless process. The ethanol year starts on the 1st of December. And so what you'll find is that that is the new price that is being offered to distilleries immediately. So it's a complete pass-through, and the contract is for an annual basis, and the pricing is also for the same term.
I also want to talk about is export quota, which for sugar seasons 22-23 has already been fixed at 6 million tons, as I understand, versus 11 million tons, which was the case in 21-22. What is your assessment on what this could really mean for domestic demand supply situation and, of course, sugar prices as well?
Right. I think you've raised a very important point. This is a very progressive move to export 6 million tons. There have been recent announcements about the quantity of exports. We at Triveni believe that about 4 million ton of the 6 million tons has already been priced. And we will see the majority of this 6 million tons of sugar, 90-95%, leaving India by March. or middle of March at the very latest. So that's very, very progressive. Last year is not exactly the same comparison because last year we only converted 3.5 million tons of sugar into ethanol. This year, it's 1 million tons higher. The estimate is at least a base of 4.5 million tons of conversion. The government, in its wisdom, has declared that it will go step by step. I think it's been very clear that the government is happy with 5.5 to 6 million tons of stock at the beginning or the end of the sugar year, which equates to just over 2 months worth of consumption. And it will export the remaining fraction. So the hope of the industry is that 6 million tons is step one in terms of the export. And then when we come closer to February, potentially even into March, and we see what the production numbers of the country are, the government will announce a second tranche of exports so that we evacuate more sugar and we have a very comfortable demand-supply balance in the country. I think from a sugar price perspective, this augurs very well. We have sugar prices that have trended slightly upwards. It's sort of range-bound, but the range has been moving very gently upwards. And I think that trajectory will be maintained as we progress through this sugar year, which will end 30th of September 23.
Tarun, morning reports also suggest that Indian sugar mills are renegotiating and are defaulting on certain existing contracts. And what really can you give us the view on the on-ground situation owing to the higher prices?
So, I'm afraid I don't have a comment on any potential defaults, and I wouldn't give in to rumors, frankly speaking, and I'm not sure whether that is the case or not. And therefore, I can't offer you any additional information from my perspective. I do believe that India will honor its contracts. Indian sugar mills will honor their contracts that have been entered into with traders or with foreign parties, etc. And this sugar will get evacuated. One thing is for certain, the world needs India's sugar. It certainly needs it as we move into the first quarter of the calendar year, where there is a deficit in terms of whites and raws globally. And from that perspective, Indian sugar will get evacuated. Now, has there been a huge change in terms of pricing? Yes, it has, but this pricing goes up and down. Yesterday, in fact, we saw selling pressure on both the white and rose contract internationally, and this was on the back of higher set of production numbers being forecast for Brazil and a meltdown in oil prices, and of course, the real depreciating even further against the US dollar. All three factors contributing to a slight decrease in the international raw and white prices. Going forward, of course, I think this is it's a dynamic market, so it could very easily turn around. We have had a substantial rally over the last 4 weeks.
Right. Tarun, we are running out of time, but on a lighter note, country liquor, you forgot to mention that. That's the golden goose for you guys. That's a quote you once gave, not me. I'll let you go, but you tell our viewers some of the fun names you come out with the Tetra Packs. I know them, but they don't know about them. Tell them 3 of those names.
Well, I'll share our top 2 sellers. It's an exciting business within Uttar Pradesh, and our top 2 sellers are Shahenshah and Miss Rangili. So, we're very happy with that business as it carries forward. Thank you for asking.
Okay, so there's some really fun names that are coming out for country liquors. They're not sound like Bollywood names. They're not Bunty or Bubbly, the Bang, Gold. You've heard the top 2 from Triveni. Thanks so much for joining us.
When he said Shahenshah and Antara, I was almost expecting Badshah next, actually.
I thought our viewers would be interested in these names. In Uttar Pradesh, country liquor, the sugar barons have been convinced to actually start selling so that the government also earns revenue. There's less crime. It's a story we would like to feature. And Tarun, why don't you invite us to one of your 7 factories? We would love to come shoot with you and your brother there.
With great pleasure. It's an open invitation.
I definitely want to say how Miss Rangili is made. That's the most creative name.
I want to see Aisha having Miss Rangili. I want to see Aisha post Miss Rangili.
We'll make that happen.
Okay, anyway, off-cam conversations. But Tarun, it's good speaking with you, and thank you for taking the time out.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.